Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Yerhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. So today we have Megan Skidmore, and yes, she is an author, but she's much more than an author. And I'm excited to have her on the show. I know she's doing a ton of things to help people. She's always on the go, always super busy. And yeah, she's just a wonderful person. So, Megan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Nick. I think so highly of you. So
Thank
that
you.
means a lot coming from you. I'm grateful that our paths have crossed. And I also appreciate that you pronounced my name correctly.
I remember that from last time.
Yeah. So I was born in Arizona up until I was about 10, and then we moved quite a bit growing up. Part of the time in New Mexico, and the remainder all the way through to high school in Indiana. I was raised in a conservative faith, the LDS faith. Sometimes people know it by, quote, the Mormons, unquote. But the church's name is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I go back 6 generations there on both sides, both maternal and paternal. I went to university at actually more than one. I transferred a couple times. Started out in Indiana and then eventually ended up in Utah at BYU and got 2 degrees from there, my undergrad and graduate. I served a mission for the LDS Church. I got married in the temple that is associated with the beliefs of the LDS Church. I come from a family of 6. I'm the second. I often kind of took the role of oldest. And I have 2 kids. And about 6 years ago, I learned that my youngest identified as LGBTQ+. And that rocked my world. I have since learned I'm not alone in that respect. Quite a few parents, most parents, at least in my circles, have felt similar or experienced similar things. The next year was the pandemic, and in some ways that gave us a nice cocoon to work through a lot of what came up without, regular. Everybody was at home, so we were also.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, I know me and you talked before, and that was a really challenging time for you.
yes, it
And,
was.
I myself, as I told you before, I am gay. So I understand some of what you went through. Definitely not all of it, but, you're a parent looking down at, the child. But you kind of helped me realize, like, what my parents kind of went through a little bit, so I'm grateful that we got to talk about that. And it is a difficult topic for a lot of people to talk about. And for you had to change a lot about the way you lived your life because of
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah. Yes, I eventually came to a place where I was intentionally making making choices, aligning my life in a different way that that aligned with how I was changing on the inside. I found life coaching in the year of the pandemic and then certified. And luckily, that gave me a lot of tools to work with as I was navigating. I was so overwhelmed with cognitive dissonance, with trying to figure out how to reconcile, which there's no reconciling really. But I was trying to figure out how to reconcile this faith I had grown up with and that was very near and dear to me, as was my child. And that my child was in no way, the reality of them was in no way what I had been taught that they were. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I'd say about a year in is when I really kind of was able to say out loud to him, there's a lot of things that I don't understand, and I've learned I know a lot less than I used to think I knew. And I am turning it over to God, to the divine, and I am listening to my heart. And one thing I know for sure is you are created perfectly, that there's nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful just as you are, and we'll figure this out. And I love you. About 2.5 years after the initial, learning, my kiddo came out as transgender. And in some ways that started my, just that whole processing journey, that learning journey, trying to come to a place of understanding and acceptance. It kind of started over because that was something I knew even less about and was not familiar with at all. And if I'm honest, I was probably a little afraid of it. We often fear what we don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
And that's unfortunate if we stay in that place of fear versus allowing the fear and getting curious about it and asking questions, feeling the discomfort that comes with something we're not familiar with, something that we've been taught is not normal or not okay, or even an abomination or something, which I believe none of those things. I'm just saying you have to learn to tolerate a lot of discomfort when life, when the rug gets pulled out from underneath you in your life's journey.
And we're all, we're raised certain ways, certain beliefs,
Uh-huh.
and then we tend to, surround ourselves with people that relate to the way we were raised. And then we never really change our mind on a lot of topics, like what you had to do. You had to go, okay, this isn't how I was raised. This isn't what I, let's say, believe in. But you're strong enough to take a step forward and be like, all right, let's see what this is about and learn and figure it out for your child. And that is just so incredible.
Thank you. And I want to add to what you're saying, Nick, that that's not something that happened overnight for me. And I think it still is an ongoing process. I'm in a different place for sure than I was a few years ago. I don't believe there's ever some point of return because of arrival. Sorry, any point of arrival, because what would be the point? We're dynamic beings. We're continually growing, evolving, expanding, right? Um, but the first step, if any of the listeners are potentially parents of queer kiddos, any kiddos that identify somewhere LGBTQIA 2S plus, there is this space between stimulus, whether that's words that a child or young adult shares, whether that's a circumstance of an event, a gathering, learning that maybe your kiddo has a significant other or some, that was unexpected. There is this pause between when you learn that, when you hear whatever words are shared and your response. That's where your power lies. And the more you can extend that pause and raise awareness of what's going on for you, because that has to do with you and nothing to do with your child, your kiddo, maybe a loved one or friends or family members.
I like that advice a lot. But basically, don't let your, first thought reaction
Mhm.
be your first reaction to your
Mhm.
kid. That's huge. Yeah.
It is. And simply saying, thank you for sharing that with me. That must have been scary or difficult or whatever. But I thank you for trusting me and I love you. Um, you don't have to respond. You don't, them sharing their story or their truth with you is not an open invitation for you to share your opinions or your worries or your thoughts about what they have shared.
And
It's an,
as someone who came out to my family, you're right. I wasn't looking for a response.
yeah,
This is something that I needed to tell. That's it. That's it.
because you probably felt seen. You had this need to feel seen
Yeah.
as
Well,
your whole self.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say I wasn't being myself. You know.
And Nick, I have learned that that's the similar case with those who are transgender or non-binary. They want to be seen on the outside, how they feel on the
And so,
inside. And society has categorized what someone who was born with a penis should look like, should uh, how they should behave, how they should talk, what their interests should be, what their hobbies even, or leisure activities, and what they pursue maybe as their lifelong passion or work. And same thing with those who are female or assigned female at birth, born with a vagina. And it's so much more than that. Having a kiddo who who is transgender. See, I'm still learning too. Um,
me too. Don't worry.
has taught me to stop looking at all the external. It's really brought to my awareness how much we judge or take account of or sum somebody up, size somebody up by what we see on the outside, because that's what's available to us. We can't see with the human eye what's on the inside. And that's where curiosity, that's where love, that's where genuine interest, that's where what we call in coaching holding space, just staying in a place of interest and neutrality. That's where that can come in. And sorry, I totally lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. It makes me think of something that you said when we last talked, and that was, I don't know if this is exactly what you said, but you you are now able to look at people like more for their soul
Yes, sorry. That's where
than
I was
like
going. That's where I was
who
going
they
with
are.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. And so God or the divine, however you refer, a person refers to their higher power, taught me to look on the heart, to see that my kiddo's soul was the same. Nothing was changing about that. It was still the same being that I had given birth to. And especially during a time that was just full of a lot more questions than there were answers, that brought peace to my heart. And it also helped my, a lot of parents of queer kiddos will say my heart was broken wide open. And that break made room for even more love, even more acceptance, more, it stretched it in a good way.
yeah, exactly. And what I love about your story and how you went through a challenging time, you learned a lot,
Uh-huh.
you actually unlearned a lot also. But now that now you're on a path to help other people
Mhm.
in similar situations. And I love that because a lot of entrepreneurs do
Mhm.
that. We go through something hard, we figure out how to make it better or do something better or solve a problem, and then we go out and help others. So, how do you help people
Yeah,
these days?
that's a great question. One of the things that I really learned in this journey and I have deep appreciation for is the bravery and the courage of those who are transgender or non-binary to share their truth, those who choose to, which it's not a truth that's owed to anybody, and to live it. That takes serious courage. And I started to see how I didn't always share sides of me. Maybe I wasn't even connected with them, my true self on the inside. And so it's taught me a lot about authenticity and being vulnerable and given me courage to do the same. And so I help folks connect with that inner voice to be able to own it and speak it. Um, One of the things that I found in the beginning of this faith journey was I had so much shame, so much guilt, self-doubt even come up when I realized I had these questions, but I wasn't allowing them. When I realized I had significant doubts, but I wouldn't like acknowledge them. I felt too much shame and made it mean a lot of things about me as a person, which, I now know they aren't true. It was a story. It was a narrative that I was living inside of. And I help folks become aware of their narratives so that they can choose whether they want to keep that narrative or thank it for what it has taught them up to that point, how it has um, been a part of their journey, held them safe in some ways. That's usually what our narratives do. They help us feel safe and then release it and move on and um, boldly step into your next best self. Take those steps, take that next best step. Um, One of the things that seriously hinders us in this work, in first of all, becoming aware and listening to and um, acknowledging these whispers, these messages, these inklings that we have in our hearts. Um, One of the things that gets in the way is the feelings that comes along with that, the emotions. I've learned how fearful we are of just feeling emotions. People will run or avoid or deny or negate certain things, whether that's within a relationship, whether that's in a professional development or pursuit, whether that's, in their faith journey or spiritual, mental, emotional health, physical health, whatever. When it brings up big emotions, we'll often shut that message or that thought or that whisper or that inkling. We'll shut it right down because we'd rather do that than feel something that is so uncomfortable. Um, but I read this book called 90 Seconds to a Better Life or to something like that.
Mhm.
Most of our emotions require about 90 seconds of our time. They
Yep.
require about 90 seconds of attention of just sitting there, being with them, allowing them, getting curious about why they are there, what might there be for you to learn from this, and processing that, alchemizing it, metabolizing it. And people do that in various ways. I am almost to complete a certification in emotional alchemy, and it has been transformational. I help folks with these big emotions. I help them see them, hold them, acknowledge them, see what's there to be learned, because they do actually have a message or more than one message for us.
Mhm.
And I've learned how disconnected we really are from our physical bodies. And the more that we can get out of our heads and drop in here and get quiet and pause and go inward, so much wisdom comes through. And it's
It
so
helps a
beautiful.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
So that's one of my favorite things to do, is to help folks with that. And I do that part one-on-one. I have a group hybrid coaching program, which includes one emotional alchemy session a month, along with group sessions each month, and a week for integration. I also have written a book that talks about my story. It's called Transparency, Transparentsee, How I Learned to See Through My Journey as a Parent of a
It's
Transgender
such a
Kiddo.
good title.
Thank
Such a
you.
good title.
And I was actually recently interviewed to be a part of an upcoming docuseries called Legacy Makers, where I shared about that journey. The series itself will start sometime summer of 2025, but my episode won't be for a while. And then the opportunities that have been laid before me this year I'm just deeply grateful. I truly feel God in my path. I'm going to be participating in, it's a non-reality reality show. Reality TV is scripted. This is not going to be scripted. This is going to be 16 writers going to an island in the British Virgin Islands, and we will be writing our books. So my next book in 5 days. It's a very
Wow.
sacred island, a very sacred experience, very transformational. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing, or having that platform to share, how we all have within us the ability to tap into, to connect with that inner voice, which I believe it comes from God, and they're messages that are for us, but sometimes they're also for those around us, near and
Yep,
far.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, um, I'd love if listeners come and follow along in my journey and send me any questions, get on the list to be notified when my book goes into launch. It's still in the editing process, but we're getting close to launch, which is so exciting.
Awesome. Awesome. I love what you do. And I also know that you have a podcast.
Oh, yes. So I started off in August of 2022. I called it Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. This this was birthed from what I shared a little bit earlier, how excruciating it was to allow all these questions and doubts, because I made it mean I was just this terrible Christian or this terrible person of faith. And I just learned that's not true. And I felt called to start this podcast and help dispel these myths, help just take a look at doubts and questions and allow them and talk about them. I've learned that the opposite of faith isn't certainty. The opposite of faith is doubt. They're two sides of the same coin, and you really can't have one without the other. And it's a healthy thing. It's part of life. It's supposed to be there. The beginning of 2025, I felt really guided to reimagine it, because I felt like I needed to shift the focus a little. So now it's called Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I focus on faith journeys, but also the joy and the life that comes after one steps into that uncertainty and ventures into the unknown and sees how much good there is, how much joy there's to be had, and how much living there is on the other side. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Everything that you do is just
Thank you,
all
Nick.
about helping others get through challenging times, find their faith, just improve themselves and their relationships.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing what you do. It's remarkable.
Thank you, Nick. I think the same about you.
Well, thank you. So before we wrap this up, I gotta ask you, So, my slogan is your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
Your abilities are infinite. Well, what comes to mind is as I have been on this journey, I have peeled away lots of layers, um, died 1,000 deaths, we could say. I truly understand a little bit more about this metamorphosis, this transformation that one goes through, and it's very painful at times. And I've learned that there's going to be another one down the road. Each time you lean into what you feel called to do, the pathway that is meant for you, you become that person that you need to be to navigate that next step or next journey and next road. And I think that that is going to happen infinitely.
I
I
agree.
really
I love
do.
that.
And we are capable. We are capable of it. We are meant to be evolving, progressing, learning, expanding beings.
And we are capable of more than we can ever even imagine.
I would have to agree.
So, yeah, awesome. Well, Megan, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really
Sure.
awesome.
It was my pleasure to be here with you. Thanks so much for inviting me.
If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in it, the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.